Hello and welcome back to the Wasteland, everybody. Welcome back to Fallout 3, where today we're going to be taking a look at the 44 Magnum and its unique variants. You're going to kind of have to ignore the black screen behind me right now. I kind of screwed up my footage a little bit by recording my blank webcam over it, so now I'm recording this one over that one. Let's talk about the 44 though, and this is one of the coolest handguns in Fallout 3, and probably one of the coolest handguns just in any game really. The 44 Magnum is always super fun to use and usually quite powerful. Fallout 3, it's no exception for it, and the 44 Magnum has been a staple in pretty much every Fallout game since, well, Fallout was Fallout. So it makes a return in Fallout 3, and this one's a little bit different because this one has a scope permanently attached to it. At least most of them do, which does make it a rather unique gun because that makes it the only handgun that you can actually aim down sights with. All the other handguns, you just have to do the weird sort of aim down sights, but also kind of look off to the side. That's kind of cool, as well as the 44 does have some pretty impressive stats. Let's go over this. The standard 44 Magnum does 35 damage per shot. That's definitely among the high side of handguns. It's also pretty high for rifles. So that's good. This one does 79 damage per second. You can shoot out the 44 pretty fast. It kind of looks like it does when you're firing it in third person where you really see it recoiling, but when you're actually aiming down sights, it really doesn't bounce around all that much. 44 has a 2x crit modifier, which makes it twice as likely to hit crits, which is pretty awesome. Does 35 crit damage, same as the regular damage, so that's pretty normal. Costs 32 action points. It's kind of on the high side for action points, but it sort of makes sense for a high damage weapon like this. This one has 0.3 spread. It is one of the most accurate handguns in the game, which you would kind of expect. It's not the most accurate handgun, because I think the dart gun actually holds that crown, but it is still quite accurate. This holds 6 shots like a standard revolver. This one weighs 4 weight, so it's not super heavy, and you can shoot this one 229 times before it breaks. 44s can break kinda quick, but 44 rounds aren't super common, and you likely don't need to shoot things very much with a 44 to actually take them down, so that's not such a big deal to have low item health. For the major pros of the 44, this one has high damage, it also has pretty good DPS, and it has long range, at least for a handgun. It's not the best at range. Something like a sniper rifle is going to be better than this, as you would kind of hope, but it's still quite good at range, and it's still quite good at close range because you can shoot this fairly fast. The major con to the 44s, though, is just simply that it's rare. You're probably not going to be finding a whole lot of them early on. They do spawn in set locations, though, so there are some that you can run and pick up right away, but you still might not get high-quality revolvers, so they might be breaking pretty quick, and you just might not find a whole lot of 44s in the early game. Later on, it's not going to be such a big deal, especially once you have access to, like, the P.A.T.S foundry to where you can make your own ammo there. If you want to make a bunch of 44s, then it's not going to be too hard to find them. For the standard 44 Magnum, I'd probably put this up into B tier. It's pretty solid. It works pretty well in most situations. It's definitely a good mid to late game handgun, so that's nice to see. Let's move on to the unique variants of it, of which we have 3 of them. There is one in the base game. This is called the Blackhawk, and the Blackhawk, you have to do a particular quest. You have to do Agatha's song, and you have to complete the optional version of it, as well as you have to answer correctly when she tells you that she has a reward. You have to then accept the reward. If you tell her not to, then you can't get the Blackhawk any other way. So this quest isn't super difficult to do, although it is kind of out of the way since you have to go about the middle of the map, find Agatha's place, talk to her, and then she'll want you to go pick up a violin. And if you pick up some sheet music, which you can actually do right at the very start of the game, the school that you see right as you leave Vault 101 actually has one of the sheets of music, as well as there are other sheets of music throughout the wasteland, so there's a couple places you can get it. This one used to be her husband's revolver, and she gives it to you. So for the stats of the Blackhawk, this one does 55 damage per hit, which is pretty substantial over the regular 44. This one has 124 damage per second, still has that 2x crit modifier. This one, weirdly enough, does a little bit less crit damage at 45. It's still more than the regular one, but not quite as much as the Blackhawk's base damage. This one still has 32 action points, still has the 0.3 spread, still holds 6 shots, still weighs 4 weight, and this one shoots slightly less shots before it breaks. This is 218 shots before it fully breaks. So the Blackhawk is a little bit more fragile, but it does hit quite a bit harder, and that does make it a pretty tempting option to get. There is kind of an issue with getting like really any of these unique versions of the 44 Magnum, and that's simply that you can go and get Lincoln's repeater pretty much right away at the start of the game. Even if you're just following the main quest line, it's fairly close to part of the main quest, so you can actually just run over there and get it. And generally that one has better stats than these, but still, if you just want a handgun that's a 44, the Blackhawk's a pretty good option, and I would put this one up into A tier. I think it's pretty solid overall. The next revolver is kind of a weird one because this is Callahan's Magnum, which is a direct reference to the Dirty Harry movies. This one you can't get until the very, very end of the game. You can't get it any other way because you have to get to the very end of Broken Steel, which means that you have to complete the entire base game story as well as complete all of Broken Steel real story. And then at the very end of that, when you're at the Enclave base, you have to choose to launch nukes at the Brotherhood, or launch the missiles at the Brotherhood. I don't think they're actually nukes. Then go back there, which will make it so the Brotherhood hates you, and you have to get into the safe at the bottom of the Brotherhood's, the Citadel that blew up. And then in that safe, you can get Callahan's Magnum, as well as you can get, I believe, another Tesla cannon. This is a lot just to get a gun that is just slightly better than the Blackhawk. For stats, this one does do 65 damage per shot, a little bit more than the Blackhawk, 146 damage per second, so it still shoots pretty fast. This one has a 2x crit modifier. This one does cost quite a bit less action points at only 25, so it is better for a V.A.T.S build. Still has 0.3 spread, still holds 6 shots, weighs 4 weight, and this one you can shoot 205 times before it breaks. This one, I mean, it is the best of these handguns, not counting the next one that we're going to talk about, but this is the best practical handgun out of these ones, but you do have to go way out of your way to get it, or you have to wait until the very end of the game to get it. So by the time I'm getting this gun, I usually don't really have much more to shoot at, because I usually don't have a whole bunch of side quests to do, and it's basically just use this to shoot the Brotherhood, and that's about it, which it's pretty good for that, so I'm going to put it up into the S tier, but it's still not that much better than the Blackhawk, and the Blackhawk is substantially easier to get, and even that one's kind of out of your way to get. You do have one more revolver, which is on the mothership Zeta, and this one is Paulson's revolver. So this is the cowboy that you can help out on the mothership, and if he dies, you can loot his body, or if you kill him, you can loot his body. And Paulson's revolver is the strongest of these handguns. It is a shotgun style weapon, which we've talked about the shotgun style weapons in Fallout 3, and this one is really ridiculous. This one does 45 damage per hit, which isn't as much, as well as this is spread over multiple shots, so it doesn't do as well against armor. That doesn't really matter though when you start hitting crits with this. This one has 101 damage per second, but that can jump up quite a bit because this one still has a 2x crit modifier, which is pretty crazy. And this one, if you hit a crit, does 315 damage because every pellet can hit a crit from it. So this one can outdamage all of the other handguns very easily, especially if you're going with a high luck build. If you're going with a low luck build, you could argue that something like Callahan's Magnum would be better in the long run, but even on a low crit build, I mean, as soon as you take like Finesse, then I'm pretty sure it already outcompetes it, just with having like, if you had 1 luck for 1% and then that for another 5%, you went up to 6%, I still think that would outdo it. And you could still get like the luck bobblehead to go up to 7%. You could still get the Wasteland Guru to go up to 10%. You could, even at just 1 luck, you could still manage to get this up to 20%. You could, of course, get that even higher with like the Lucky Shades and the Lucky 8-Ball. So even on a non-luck crit build, this one is still going to be pretty much top tier. Paulson's revolver also has 3 spread, quite a bit more than the regular one because it is a shotgun. Holds 6 shots, weighs 4, and it only shoots 178 shots before it breaks. Not that that really matters, since if you get a crit, you're probably going to kill whatever you hit anyway. If it's a sneak crit, doubly so that's a huge bonus for this weapon. Paulson's revolver is going to go all the way up to the broken tier. This one also doesn't have a scope on it, which is kind of cool. I kind of like the look of that, especially since it's a shotgun. You don't really need to be aiming down the sights with it. So this one is the strongest handgun in the game. The only exception to that might be the dart gun, but that's usually because the dart gun is really strong in combination with weapons like this, because you could cripple something, then switch to this, stay safely out of range, and just keep shooting it until you hit a crit, and then you one-shot it. This one's really, really good. It's a really good weapon. The only kind of downside to this is that you do need to have Paulson die, which kind of sucks, and I wouldn't even say that this is the strongest shotgun-style weapon. I would still say something like the Metal Blaster or the Terrible Shotgun are better than this, so you don't really have to go out of your way in order to get Paulson to die. Just if you want a really cool handgun, or if he happens to die on the mothership, then you can pick this one up, so yeah, this one's pretty good. Tell me your thoughts on the 44 Magnum and all of its unique variants. I would really love to hear that. Thank you guys so very much for watching this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye, everybody.